If you've watched my videos before, you'll know that one of my favorite things about Dandy's World is the lore. And recently, the community discovered something about the lore that just blows my mind. In Dandy's World, we've had the lore delivered to us in a number of different ways. We've had TV screens that you can watch and find out different stories of something that happened. We have notes that you can find all around the Garden View Center that tells different pieces of lore. We even have hidden text written on walls that we still kind of don't even know what it means. And that's not even all of them. There are so many ways that this game gives us bite-sized pieces of lore to just take and collect and try to form a story. Well, my friends, we just got one of the coolest ones ever. Oh yeah, and leave a like on this video if you like lore. When I'm doing research for my videos, one of the first things I always do is go to the Dandy's World wiki and just sort of search for things that I haven't seen before, or maybe people have found new things and posted new things. And since Squirm here is the newest toon, I thought this would be a good place to start because I'm sure there's a lot of new stuff that we haven't figured out yet about the last update. And boy, was I right. If you go to Squirm's page on the Dandy's World wiki, and then you click over here on gallery, scroll down until you see the texture files after the mechanic, you will see a bunch of images of what they're calling the book pages texture. I want to say real quick that if it weren't for the Dandy's World wiki and the community finding this, I never would have found this. There's no way in the world I would have thought to even look in this place for a piece of lore, and it's honestly so small in the game that you really wouldn't realize it unless you like have a microscope. You have a Roger in front of your eye just waiting for lore. I will say though that it has changed the way that I'm gonna look at everything in this game. Like this bell is no longer gonna be just a bell. I'm gonna be looking like microscopically at literally everything. Anyway, let's go into a run. Hi. There's a couple of ways to see this texture. The first one is when you're actually eating the book, you see all these pages that like fly out of it. The second way is when you're eating from the bookshelf. As long as the bookshelf is a new bookshelf, you're gonna get the same pieces of paper that are flying out of it. What if I told you there is something written on these tiny little pieces of paper, these little things flying out, there's something written on there that is actually about the lore. We're gonna read what this says in just a second, but let me know in the comments if you think you would have ever found this out, because I don't think I would have, although moving forward, I probably will starting now, because I'm gonna be looking with the microscope at everything. I didn't even believe this at first either, but I went into a run, I used my ability, saw the little papers flying out, and I took a screenshot as the papers were flying out. And look, you can see it right there. It says, still going. This one's upside down and Brightney is about to come and attack me. But you can clearly read that it says still going with a bunch of text. And that text is more easily seen when you click on these animations on the Dandy's World wiki. You can actually see that there's legitimately something written on this piece of paper. What is written on this piece of paper? You're definitely asking right now. Let's read it. Titled Still Going. The caterpillar was always late. When it tried to climb, it fell. When it dreamed of flying, someone laughed. While others moved on, it stayed behind, thinking it was made wrong. One day it built its cocoon. It broke, like everything else. But from the ground, for the first time, no one was looking down on it. When it came out, it didn't fly high or beautifully, but it kept going. And for it, that was enough. So this here looks a lot like a poem. I have no idea who wrote it, but it's clearly talking about Squirm because it mentions a cocoon, and Twisted Squirm here. Bro's got like a broken cocoon and everything. So let's break this poem down and try to see if we can find what is actually happening here. I've got it written out in a notepad so it's a little bit easier to read. The title is called Still Going, and the first line says, the caterpillar was always late. I find this very interesting because if you didn't watch the video where I went over the voice lines, one of the voice lines that Squirm has with Flutter, she just says ... question mark because she doesn't really talk. And then Flutter says, I know Flutter. I thought so too ... Flutter then says question mark, and he says, I know, but he said I'm a bookworm, and so I must be a bookworm. Flutter then exclaims something, and Squirm said, sorry, Flutter, maybe we can spend some time together after this. Flutter is obviously a butterfly. Now, I don't think Delilah made Flutter as a caterpillar and then let her like cocoon and then turn into a butterfly. I think Flutter was created as a butterfly, but she is a butterfly, and so she knows like the happenings of a butterfly. She knows about her own species, probably. So whatever she's saying in these voice lines, I think it's safe to assume that she's like, bro, you're not a worm, you're a caterpillar. This voice line right here, I literally read as, wait, you're not a caterpillar? And I think the he that he's talking about here, the he said I'm a bookworm, I think that this is Arthur. So Arthur gets to decide what things are in this world, and I think that he, Arthur, said that Squirm is a bookworm, not a caterpillar. So clearly it's not Arthur that wrote this, because it says the caterpillar was always late, and Arthur doesn't think he's a caterpillar. He says he's a worm. The next line says, when it tried to climb, it fell, which I guess makes sense because a worm, I don't think can climb up a wall, whereas like a caterpillar could climb up a wall. So maybe he is a worm. When it dreamed of flying, someone laughed. Who is the someone? Who's laughing at my boy Squirm? Oh, wait, what if this is also Arthur? What if Arthur is the one who laughed because Arthur's like, no, bro, you're a worm. But then Delilah kind of created him as like kind of a caterpillar too. He's like, I think I'm a caterpillar, so I want to fly one day. Arthur's like, yeah, right, bro, you're a worm. What are you thinking? While the others moved on, it stayed behind, thinking it was made wrong. This is a really, really interesting line. We all know that Arthur is the one who designs the tunes. He kind of comes up with what they are, and then Delilah is the one who brings them to life. Clearly, the he that I think is Arthur knows that he's a worm, but then what if Delilah made the worm into a caterpillar, and that's kind of where this confusion is happening? I mean, it says right here, he thinks he was made wrong, and so if Arthur created him as a worm, but then Delilah created him as a caterpillar, that makes a lot of sense as to why there's so much confusion. The next line is so sad. One day it built its cocoon. It broke, like everything else, including his heart and his feelings, and everything else about him. This part of the poem we can definitely confirm because he's literally in a broken cocoon when he's twisted. And he hangs upside down from the ceiling in his cocoon, which makes the next lines make a lot of sense. It says, but from the ground, for the first time, no one was looking down at him because he's on the ceiling, so everybody has to look up at him, you know, just by design. And then it says something else interesting. When it came out, it didn't fly high or beautifully, but it kept going, and for it, that was enough. This is probably talking about the fact that when Twisted Squirm is up on the sky, so like we're looking up at him, and then he comes down, like he's not flying, but he's like attached by the I-cord to the ceiling. So he comes down and he just keeps going, I guess, until he's actually able to grab something. So does that mean when Squirm is twisted, he's finally happy? Because Bro does not look happy even when he's twisted. And that is officially the entire note. Keep in mind that this is just my theory, but here's what I think happened. I think that Arthur wanted to make a worm tune for his TV show, and so he designed the worm, but it also kind of looked like a caterpillar. So when the Garden View Center opened and Delilah was making the tunes into real life, she created a caterpillar. And he thought he was a caterpillar, he looked like a caterpillar, and for all intents and purposes to him, he was a caterpillar. But then Arthur was like, no, you are a bookworm. You are not a caterpillar, you're a bookworm. And he's like, but I want to fly one day. And Arthur's like, nope, you can't. What? That doesn't make any sense. Ha 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 ha. I'm laughing at you for that because you're not a caterpillar, you're a worm. And I think this ultimately just confused Squirm so much, and it kind of started off all of his anxiety and self-doubt and all the other personality traits that he has because he is just not what he's meant to be. It's really hard to kind of be caught in the middle of like who you really are, and it creates all of this personality stuff for Squirm. The note or poem or whatever this is that we've been reading today, I think is from a perspective of somebody looking onto Squirm. And you know who I think wrote this? Delilah. I think Delilah Keene wrote the poem that we have been reading today, writing the story, looking on from a third-person perspective, because she knew he was a caterpillar because she created him to be a caterpillar. So that's why she says the caterpillar was always late, and then goes on to tell the story of how he became a twisted, and then at the very end says, and for it, that was enough. This last line sounds like it's talking about this is enough for Squirm, but I don't think that's what it's talking about. I think it's saying that was enough of like its journey before it became twisted. Like that was enough of its life pre-twisted, and now it's twisted. Like, Delilah is always really sus in the lore of this game. I think she knows something about what makes the Twisteds twisted or whatever's going on. And obviously Squirm here was in a really heightened emotional state once his cocoon broke, that was the last thing that kind of like made him become twisted. So he was either angry or sad, or for him probably sad about it, became a twisted. Delilah's looking on, writing the story about what happened for somebody to be able to tell. I guess for us to be able to tell. But at the end of the day, just like with everything else about the lore of this game, we just don't know. But I think that it kind of just connects a lot of other dots in this game about Delilah making the tunes and stuff like that. So I don't know. You'll have to let me know what your theories are down in the comment section below. I would love to read them and how I'm wrong. This honestly just makes me so excited for future lore things in this game. I love the tiny things. I love the things that you have to do like multiple steps to find them out. I mean, to be able to look through a microscope and look at those pages and realize that they say something, that's just totally crazy, and it just makes me so excited for the future. This last update, even though it was like a tune and a few maps, honestly just laid the roadmap for so many amazing updates in the future of Dandy's World, and I cannot wait. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like rating down below, subscribe if you are not subscribed yet, and as always, if you want to see more videos from me, go and check out the video that Squirm is squirming at right there. He's squirming at that video. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I will see all of you beautiful people in the next video.